Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago Med star offers tantalizing tease for upcoming One Chicago crossover event. This is like Avengers Endgame. After more than 5 years of no crossovers, the One Chicago TV series, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med will come together for one big event in 2025, and one actor is setting high expectations for the three-part story. The three NBC procedural shows last teamed up in October 2019 for Infection, but since then, they have kept to themselves. The COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in more safety precautions, was a huge factor in the crossover drought, but that will all end on one special night in late January. Steven Weber, who stars as Dr. Dean Archer in the medical drama, discussed the highly anticipated One Chicago crossover with Screen Rant. He couldn't say too much about the event, including which Chicago Fire or Chicago PD characters Archer might share scenes with. However, Weber drew parallels between the upcoming crossover and one of the biggest movies ever. Check out Weber's full quote below. Although Weber couldn't give out specific names when asked about who Archer interacts with in the 2025 One Chicago crossover, his comments imply that the actor worked with some Chicago Fire stars during the three-part event. Unfortunately, viewers will seemingly have to wait to learn who Weber was talking about. In the meantime, though, the Chicago Med actor's Avengers Endgame analogy raises some eyebrows. Weber stated that the upcoming crossover between all three One Chicago TV shows will feel like this universe's version of Avengers Endgame. This comparison sets high expectations for the event since Avengers Endgame is the second highest-grossing film of all time. Nevertheless, based on Weber's comments, audiences will see Med actors working with Fire stars and PD characters grouping up. So far, it's known that all three teams will respond to a gas explosion at a high-rise building. The three-part event synopsis also reveals that the explosion results in 40 people trapped underground, including 2 recognizable One Chicago characters. Weber's statement suggests that the 2025 One Chicago crossover could be the biggest one the franchise has ever done, taking into account his parallel between the NBC crossover and Avengers Endgame. Viewers have reason to worry about their favorite One Chicago characters. If the stakes are high, lives are in danger, and not just for those who are strangers to the audience. The interconnected Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med story should have viewers on the edge of their seats for all 3 hours of the crossover event. Fans of the One Chicago universe, buckle up, because something epic is coming to the Windy City, and it's got the cast buzzing. In a recent interview, Chicago Med's Dr. Crockett Marcel himself, Dominic Raines, dropped a tantalizing tease that has viewers more than ready for what's ahead. This is like Avengers Endgame, but in scrubs, uniforms, and turnout gear. For longtime fans of Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD, crossover events have always been a thrilling highlight. High-stakes emergencies that intertwine stories and deepen character arcs across the 3 shows. But according to Raines, what's coming next isn't just another thrilling crossover. It's the crossover, the one that will shake the very foundation of the One Chicago universe. It's cinematic, Raines said, flashing a sly smile during a press junket for Chicago Med's upcoming season. We shot scenes that felt more like a movie than a TV show. This is going to be talked about for years. While details remain under tight wraps, sources close to the production hinted that the event will center around a large-scale disaster that spans all 3 departments: medical, firefighting, and law enforcement. But the real twist? A moral dilemma so explosive it could split loyalties, test long-standing friendships, and force the characters to confront the darkest parts of themselves. Rumors suggest the inciting incident involves a biotech lab explosion in downtown Chicago. First on the scene, Squad 3 from Chicago Fire, with Stella Kidd and Kelly Severide leading a chaotic evacuation, but things spiral quickly when evidence begins pointing toward corporate sabotage, and an insider within the lab who may have ties to a well-known figure in the Chicago PD unit. Enter Haley Upton and Hank Voight. As the CPD begins to investigate, lines blur between victim and suspect. Meanwhile, over at Chicago Med, Dr. Marcel and Dr. Charles treat a whistleblower from the lab whose memory is fragmented and whose condition is rapidly deteriorating, leaving doctors racing against time not only to save a life, but to unlock a secret that could prevent a second wave of destruction. This crossover event gave us all a chance to push our characters into uncharted territory, said Nick Gelfus, returning briefly to reprise his role as Dr. Will Halstead in a key flashback sequence. It's raw, it's messy, and it's emotionally supercharged. We're not just trying to stop a disaster, we're confronting the consequences of past choices. The creative team behind One Chicago pulled out all the stops for this mega event. The three-show collaboration involved joint writers' rooms, overlapping production schedules, and the rare opportunity to have all principal casts interact in ways fans have long dreamed about. Cara Kilmer, who returns as Sylvie Brett in what insiders are calling her most heroic moment yet, teased a moment where Firehouse 51 coordinates a daring rooftop rescue, while communicating directly with Med's trauma bay via Bodicam footage. It was intense. We had cranes, drones, stunts. You're going to see Sylvie in a totally new light. Meanwhile, Jason Begg, ever the gravel-voiced Voight, cryptically shared that the event will challenge the team in ways never before seen on PD. Voight has to make a decision, a big one, and depending on what he chooses, it could change the team forever. Social media is already ablaze with fan speculation. Will Jay Halstead make a surprise return? Could the explosion tie back to past villains like the Beck family or the drug cartel from Season 6 of Chicago PD? And what if a Chicago Fire character is caught in the crosshairs? In perhaps the most eyebrow-raising tease of all, Rains hinted that one of the original characters from Chicago Med might not make it out alive. We lost someone while filming this. Not the actor, he clarified, but the character. It was gut-wrenching. Showrunner Diane Frolov chimed in with her own hype. This isn't just about explosions and emergencies. It's about the soul of Chicago. What happens when people we love are tested to their core? What happens when heroes fail? And what happens when, against all odds, they find the strength to rise? Set to air as a 3-hour event in May, the crossover will kick off with Chicago Med, ramp up with Chicago Fire, and conclude in a gripping finale with Chicago PD producers. Recommend watching live to avoid spoilers. And if the teases are any indication, this crossover could very well be one Chicago's most talked about moment in franchise history. In a world already full of crossovers, from Grey's Anatomy and Station 19 to the Arrowverse on the CW, One Chicago has always grounded its connections in realism. But this time, they're going for scale, stakes, emotion, fireworks, or, as Rains put it best, this is Avengers, Endgame. We've been building to this for 10 years. So get ready, Chicago. The sirens are blaring, the city is burning, and the heroes you love are about to face their biggest challenge yet.